Ahoy there, jabronis. Welcome to Create and Destroy. I'm your host, Dan Donnarumma, and this is episode 43. Super excited about today's episode and my guests, as always. For today's episode, I've got the homies from Lanayah on the podcast. So Lynn McTague, Will Callender, and Anna Brown. And I was super excited to have those three come onto the podcast. Let me pick their brain. What's fucking crazy is that I actually recorded my conversation with them prior to the whole coronavirus fucking pandemic gripping the nation. So it's kind of crazy to think about how much this virus has taken a toll on America and the globe in just a handful of weeks, which is fucking nuts, man. I hope all of you guys are staying safe, staying healthy, you're social distancing and staying home, not being a goon. And hopefully this time isn't super stressful for you or isn't super hard on you and your family. But let's talk about some cool stuff. So my conversation with Will, Lynn, and Anna was seriously so much goddamn fun, which is so cool. And thank you to Lynn, Anna, and Will for taking the time to speak with me and to have such an awesome conversation. So I honestly don't want to spoil too much about my conversation with those three. So let's get right into it. Here's my conversation with Lynn, Will, and Anna from Lanayah. All right, so Will, Lynn, Anna, how are you guys doing today? Well, for me, it's tonight. For you guys, it's still day. How are you guys doing?
Good. It's sunny California right now.
Yeah, great. It's pretty beautiful out.
I'm in Oregon. It's raining right now. I was concerned the rain sound was going to come through on the recording.
It was snowing in Rochester today, and I totally fucking jinxed myself because I got home from work yesterday, and I'm thinking, all right, spring's only a few weeks away. I think we might be done with snow. And I woke up this morning to a bunch of snow. I was like, fuck.
Great.
Yeah. So did you guys all grow up on the West Coast?
Yeah. We're all from the same town pretty much.
Yeah.
So I've had a few people on the podcast now from the West Coast, and every time I'm always jealous of you West Coasters because the West Coast is awesome. It's beautiful as hell. And there's just, I feel like especially now, there's so many cool bands and acts that are coming out of the West Coast, especially with like LA, San Fran.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Portland and Seattle, just so much cool shit there.
Especially, Portland. Seems pretty dope.
Do you guys have a favorite thing about where you live?
It's kind of like got a close proximity to LA, but it's not, right in the middle of like a really, busy kind of like, high intensity like city environment.
Yeah.
And, all the bands that I want to see pretty much always come to LA. So I can just kind of like drive for an hour and a half and then see like whoever I want to see without having to deal with that kind of like high intensity environment.
I will say also, I'm not in Santa Barbara right now, but having done a lot of shows there and like been there for years, one thing that I kind of appreciate retrospectively about where you guys are is the DIY community there is really, really like accepting to different genres of music.
That is true.
Yeah.
That's great. So I'm just trying to like get my bearings here. Would Santa Barbara be north of LA?
Yeah, it's like an hour and a half north, like 100 miles. Or
okay. So. And then how far is it from San Fran?
Oh, it's like 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to.
So not too bad.
Yeah, it's not too awful. San Fran's like been the usual like stop we hit on the way up to Oregon or the Pacific Northwest, just because it's kind of like that midway point. But yeah.
And then Will and Lynn, how far are you from where Anna lives?
Oh god,
it's like 14
Eugene,
hours away.
Like,
I'm in Eugene, Oregon.
Holy shit. So how the hell do you guys like practice and get together?
Well,
remotely.
We do like a lot of recordings, so we do send stuff around, but Anna comes back every now and then, and when they are back, we just cram as much as we can.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's up, man. You guys could just see now that you got Skype down, you can just start practicing over Skype.
Yeah, that's true.
That'd be so crunchy.
So how often are you able to get together and practice and write and do other band shit?
I would say that the most productive like Lanayah season is probably summer and fall, because none of us are like doing school or anything really. So we just have a lot of time to sit and practice.
Yeah, during
cool.
like breaks and stuff is when everyone can kind of convene momentarily, and then we all, split up and depart again, and it's sad.
It's slower, but we still do some stuff. But yeah.
So I wanted to ask you guys this because I've been pronouncing the band's name Lanayah, and when I was putting together the questions, I was like, the way it's spelled out, I have to be pronouncing it fucking wrong.
So
yeah, how do you pronounce the band?
That's
band's
pretty
name?
funny. Because it seems like that's the most common pronunciation people come up with.
Yeah, like literally everyone. Like whenever we play a new city or like anything, or we play with new bands, and they're always like, okay, like Lanayah's up next.
Yeah, we always get announced as Lanayah. But yeah, I don't know. It's whatever. It's just a name. I've always said Lanayah.
I've always just told people like it's whatever you want it to be.
Yeah.
Like you can pronounce it however you want. I'm
like
okay
I said,
with
when I was just kind of going through our questions before, and I was like, this, because I kept writing the band name, I'm like, yeah, it can't be Lanayah. I have to be pronouncing this incorrectly. So how did you guys come up with that name?
Let Lynn take this one.
Okay, can I be pretty in depth with it? So yeah, I guess I'll just go for it. So I'm trans, and so Lanayah was a name that I always wanted when I was younger, but I didn't think I was ever going to get to that point. And so when I started a band with these guys, I was like, okay, if I'm not going to be able to do that myself, I just want to like be able to express it in like a different way. So I proposed that name, and it just kind of stuck. I don't know, it's pretty.
Yeah.
I've since not used that name because it'd be kind of weird to take the band name, but so yeah.
That's really cool. So do you feel that since the band uses that name, does it feel empowering for you? How does it feel that you get to use that name that you've previously wanted to use for yourself?
Well, before I transitioned, it was nice because it was a way to like live that out in like a more abstract way. And now, since I've started transitioning and chosen a different name, it's a good way to like look back on where I was.
That's awesome. And so you guys had mentioned this, then I'm assuming the scene that you guys are in, right? It's a very welcoming community for you guys then, correct?
I'd say, yeah. I feel like we've gotten away with, like, not just, being welcoming on the grounds of like, gender identity and that type of thing, but also like on the grounds of how many mixed bills we play. And I guess how loud we are compared to, a lot of the other bands that we played with kind of growing up and kind of, establishing ourselves. So they've always, been very tolerant.
Yeah, to anything really.
That's awesome. Yeah, I have to say, when I listened to you guys for the first time, I was not expecting your band to be as heavy as it is, because I would see that you guys would play like with Flenser bands or other bands that I was into, and I'm thinking, all right, they're probably like a shoegaze band or maybe like a mix of different things. I wasn't expecting a heavy ass band, and then I listened to them like, oh fuck yeah.
That's cool.
So that's really cool. So do you guys prefer playing mixed bill bands? Would you rather play a show that is more of like heavy acts? What would you guys prefer?
I mean, I think kind of the beauty of, I don't know, playing heavy stuff, but also having that appreciation for like shoegazier stuff. I like the ability to be able to play mixed bills and also really heavy bills.
Yeah, I don't really prefer either. I like it when it's anything.
Yeah. I've always kind of liked being the heaviest band on the bill, personally.
Yeah. It is kind of fun though when like a band you don't know comes up and just crushes you, like, and I don't know.
Hell yeah. So I'm sure, right, there's got to be those times where someone hasn't heard you, and then you guys go up there and you're seeing people's reaction like, oh fuck, I wasn't expecting this.
It's so
we've
funny.
seen people like like plug their ears and like walk out. Like holy shit, I wasn't expecting that loud, because the band before was like an indie group or something.
Yeah, when we started playing shows, I think like the first maybe couple of Lanayah shows, like 4 or 5 Lanayah shows, were the loudest shows that we've ever played. Some of the loudest shows I've ever like personally attended, even though I'm performing in them, and that was kind of all my fault. I was a massive like My Bloody Valentine nerd, and just worshipped like super loud amplifiers and everything. So we just kind of went for it, and we were a 3-piece. I mean, we're a 3-piece now, but we were like a different kind of 3-piece when we started. It was just Lynn, our drummer Ethan, and I. So we were just, guitar, bass, drums, vocals, and we tried to just create as like imposing of an atmosphere as possible, like just through maximum volume.
Yeah, I melted my first amp trying to keep up with you.
What? So wait, so like what kind of amps were you guys using? And Lynn, what kind of amp were you using that fucking melted?
Back then I was using a Bad Cat Hot Cat. It was only 30 watts, so I just had to crank it. Yeah. Now I have an Orange Stack, so
that's awesome. Yeah, I remember years ago, oh my god, this was quite some time ago, seeing this band Go It Alone, and this was in Brooklyn, and the dude's fucking head stack caught on fire while he was playing.
Oh, wow.
Just kept playing through it. That was pretty cool. But so holy shit. So
I aspire to like be at that level of catching shit on fire and playing
so
through
shit.
it.
So Lynn, your amp starts melting. Did you guys did you keep playing? Did you have to stop?
No,
once we started, we kind of just didn't stop until we were over.
No,
it just became inaudible, if it became like an inaudible mess, like we didn't care. Like
it was that Fun Zone show that we played, the first one. And I realized after the show, like I was a lot more quiet, and then I looked inside and like some things were really messed up. And like
fucking fried to shit, man.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I was using a Sun 300T bass amp at the time, and I had a 6x10 speaker cabinet, and the amp head was actually so much wider than the cabinet. It was just this massive like parking garage of an amplifier that it would always sit on it, and it would look like it was about to like fall off and collapse, and then I would just play that like almost at max volume.
Yeah.
God damn, dude. There's something incredible about seeing a live performance that is loud as fuck, right? Because then it becomes like not only just an audio thing, but also physical as well, which is so awesome.
Yeah, I was a repressed bass player at the time too, so I felt like I needed to play as loudly as possible to make up for all the years spent buried.
That's awesome. To kind of rewind and kind of to start at the beginning of the band, when did you guys form?
Okay, so in Santa Barbara, there's this thing called Rock Shop, which was like an after school like and summer camp kind of thing where you could go and just play music with people. And I met Will there, and I thought you were like the coolest kid there. I came in not really knowing any how to play or anything, and then
we were like 14 or 15.
Yeah,
I think.
And then I started a band with my like childhood friend, and I was like, oh man, this bass player's like the coolest one. Like we gotta get them. And so yeah, I recruited you and then Ethan, and then we ended up kicking my childhood friend out because he just wanted to do just kind of like generic rock stuff, and we were getting weird with it.
I remember actually I saw your last show with that group, and I remember at the end you and Will did pedal noise for a couple minutes. I thought it was awesome, and I think your friend looked kind of pissed.
Yeah, no, he didn't like it. So yeah, and then Anna, yeah, why don't you say like your experience, because you were always kind of around.
Yeah, no, I was at probably like the first and like a lot of the earlier Lanayah shows. I mean, I think Will pretty much just like asked me like, hey, do you want to do synth stuff for this project? And I was like, yes, please. Because there were not, there weren't a lot of other super heavy projects going on at the time that I was like part of.
I actually remember the first time I hung out with Anna, and it was going to this tiny record store called Warbler in Santa Barbara, which is this awesome like it's ran by one guy. It's kind of like, maybe 20 by 30 square feet. Like, it's tiny, but it's really cool. And I went there with a mutual friend who also went with Anna. And Anna and I think, immediately started talking about Merzbow.
That sounds about right, yeah. I think at the time you recommended me Skinny Puppy, and then I came back like a few weeks later and I was like,
hell yeah.
Oh my god, Skinny Puppy.
I also would just like to add, I love, Lynn, you saying getting weird with it. That should be like the band's tag.
Getting weird with it.
Man. Yeah.
That's cool.
That's so good. So what year is this that we're talking about? What time frame are we talking about when you guys started to form the band?
2015.
That sounds right.
Yeah, like
2016, 2015.
This 2015 is when we switched over to Lanayah, because we kind of just took like our previous band's stuff and just kind of like morphed it into Lanayah,
like reusing riffs and everything.
So it was this weird kind of period, so we don't really remember. It was a slow shift.
So what made you guys want to shift from that previous project to then making music for Lanayah?
Lynn and I bought a Deaf Heaven CD.
Okay, yeah, that's honestly like probably the turning point. Yeah, we went to a record shop like at lunch and one summer, and I just saw Sunbather, that pink thing, just staring at me in the metal section, and I was like, I need to know what that is. And yeah, we were just like, oh my god, I haven't heard anything like this before.
A week later, we're like, okay, we need to put blast beats in everything,
and I'll play as fast as I can on guitar.
Yeah, and only play major key, like
so
melodic chord progressions.
Yeah, we were kind of like a Deaf Heaven like.
It was Deaf Heaven worship.
Yeah, for a little bit.
Full on. If you listen to our early stuff too, like you can totally get that. If you listen to some of our like newer stuff too, you can kind of get that. But
well, so yeah, dude. In Forever in May, I'm trying to remember what it's. I feel like it's nowhere near as noticeable as North Pinion. There was like one song where I was like, okay, I could totally pick up on Deaf Heaven. But North Pinion, when I was listening, was like, oh yeah, I could totally hear the Deaf Heaven influence.
Oh yeah, we were Deaf Heaven obsessed 17 and 18-year-olds when we made that album.
Dude, I know like from some metalheads, Deaf Heaven gets shit, and some of their last two albums I didn't really enjoy as much, but like the demo, the first two LPs, I fucking love. They're so good.
Roads to Judah is like.
Yeah.
Oh, dude,
classic.
So good.
Yeah.
I listened to Sunbather on the drive back home last night, and I still shed a tear.
That album is fucking incredible. Sunbather is so good. Have you guys ever seen them play before?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
4 times, maybe. We're seeing them again in April.
I think I'm gonna try to catch them on their Seattle show actually as well for their
nice
their next West Coast run.
I've only got to see them once. I don't even know. It was probably like 4 or 5 years ago now. And they played in Buffalo, which is like an hour and a half from where I live. And I took at the time we weren't married yet, but my wife and I went, and she's not into heavy music like that at all. And I don't think she was expecting Deaf Heaven to sound like they did. And afterwards she's like, what'd you think? And she's like, it was fun. Totally like not into it.
Yeah, but it was fun response.
Yeah.
God. But they were fucking sick live. They were also loud as shit too when I saw them.
Oh yeah. No, those guys are awesome.
Yeah, no, I remember we saw them all together actually at the beginning of their New Bermuda tour. And that was like before New Bermuda like blew up and got a ton of good reviews and stuff. So it was kind of nice seeing them at a stage where you could go like talk to George after the show and he'd be like really getting up in people's faces in the audience and stuff. I don't think he interacts with people as much anymore.
Yeah, they blew up. Yeah.
At that show during the last song of the encore, which I think was Dream House. I remember George, the vocalist, just grabbing me from the front and pulling me up onto the stage during like the quiet part at the end. And he just held me there, and then as soon as the song like jumped back in, he just tossed me off. It was great.
Dude, he was intense as fuck when I saw him. He's got a really great stage presence.
Oh yeah,
they're a great live band.
Yeah. So going back to Deaf Heaven being as an influence, how would you describe the sound of your band? Because when I listen to North Pinion, you can definitely hear Deaf Heaven as an influence, but Forever in May, for me, I have difficulty describing how the fuck I would explain this to someone else. So how would you guys explain your band and your sound to someone who's never listened to your music before?
It's getting even harder because we're like halfway through demoing the new thing that we're going to release.
Yeah, and that's completely different.
It's like something else entirely.
So I don't know. I just tell people to, if they can, just like play a random song. Like literally, I just say like, I show them the thing and I'm like, just pick one that like looks interesting, like name wise or whatever. And then just figure it out. I don't know, because
there was a magazine whose quote I still use as our Instagram bio, which described this as a fairly unclassifiable blackened screamo, and then with 3 question marks. So
yeah, I when I was putting together questions for this, I was just like, how the fuck am I going to describe this band? Because I feel like obviously metal and screamo, and I guess maybe some like post metal thrown in there. But I saw, on your Bandcamp, seeing quotes from other stuff where they're talking about like doom and folk. I'm just like, yeah, I guess I could see that stuff too. But yeah, it's a very like blurred line as far as how to describe your band.
Yeah,
I think a lot of that comes from how long it took us to write all the material that's on Forever in May, because we were all, very busy at that time, and we were, going through a lot of like life changes and everything. So I think it says on the Bandcamp page, like, this is material that was written between like 2016 and 2018. So there's like songs on there that we wrote, like 2 or 3 years before we even started recording Forever in May that sound way different than the songs we wrote like 2 weeks before recording Forever in May.
I have some voice memos of wind chimes of me like first writing the guitar parts, like from summer of 2016 or even earlier. But it took forever to write.
It took forever to write.
It took a long time to write. And we wanted just to do whatever we wanted, like no bad ideas kind of thing. Take influence from everything. Like, I don't know, I really like folk and freak folk and like Midwest emo and stuff like that. So
yeah, there's a big like freak folk influence like on a lot of what we do.
That's really great. Yeah, I'm so bummed I didn't discover your music until maybe end of November, beginning of December. And actually, now that I think about it, it might have been close to like around Christmas time. I'm gonna give Tom Wasluck a shout out because he was all about your band, and I wound up listening to Forever in May. I was like, fuck, this is so good.
Thank you.
And I'm so bummed that it took me so long to finally fucking listen to your band, but I'm so happy that I did.
Oh, thank you.
And one of the things that I find super impressive, so I'm going to ask this. How old are you guys?
I turned 22 3 months ago.
Yeah, I'm 22.
I just turned 21.
Which, fuck yeah for you guys, because I feel like the music that is the most interesting to me now is music that, like your band, just blurs the lines of genres and is pulling from all different sorts of stuff and is creating something really cool, and is able for me to sit there and say to myself, fuck, how would I describe this music or this band? And yeah, you guys do it, and I feel like you nail it and you hit a home run with it.
Oh, thank you.
And the fact that you guys are in your early 20s is even awesomer. So yeah, fuck yeah, man.
Yeah, I think about that a lot.
I gotta ask you, Will, I love your vocals.
Oh, thank you.
Does your throat ever hurt after you sing?
It depends on like how long I go without practicing or without like, playing any shows or doing anything like that. On Forever in May, I think like it had like the more painful recording sessions out of, the 2 releases that we have out right now, because I was kind of just like going on the basis of I don't really care about technique right now. I just want to like make as loud as a sound like with my throat as possible. I don't know, usually before shows I kind of like I warm up a little bit and I kind of get back into that habit of like, doing those kinds of vocals, and then at the end of the day, I don't notice it at this point, which is I think a good sign. I think that's a good thing. I'm not just like those nerves are just gone, like. But yeah. So my crusty ass, like when I'm listening to music and I'm singing along, I could maybe do like now a song, maybe 2 max before I'm like, oh, I can't do this anymore, my throat. Oh man.
So yeah.
Yeah, I can't do it at all.
So I'm always jealous that like people can do that and they could do it for long periods of time.
Yeah, I'll practice in the car a lot. I'll throw on like Cult Leader or like Converge or something, and I'll just like go for it.
So I don't know how the fuck Jacob Bannon from Converge does it, because he's like in his 40s now. He's still
wild.
is like, I don't fucking get it, man. How is this guy's throat like still holding up? Or even like, I don't know if you're into Bostonage, but like,
Oh yeah,
fuck
yes, yeah.
dude, like how the fuck does that guy sing like that? And yeah, it blows my mind.
I love his vocals too in Bostonage because they sound so, I guess, like emotional. Like wow, he's going for it and he's screaming really loudly. There's that kind of like the way that his lines like decay. Almost like that, like I can't even really do it, but it works so well with like the type of lyrics that he writes.
Oh my gosh,
and
the
like how it's
content.
just
Oh, absolutely.
The lyric
Yeah.
content of Bostonage is so good.
yeah, that was actually
So
that was what
good.
like got me into that band actually, because I was listening to them and I was like, okay, this is like when All Fours came out, and I was like, all right, this is some really killer, like cool fucking like black metal stuff. And then I looked at the lyrics to I think Washerwoman. And I remember I was a senior in high school, I think, and I just went to school the next day and I was like, guys, you need to listen to this band Bostonage. Just read these lyrics. Like, just read these. Like,
They're so fucking good.
Yeah.
Yo, if you ever have the chance, the singer Brian Manning, he put out like, I guess it's like, I think it's a short story.
Yeah, Bleer,
but it's really
right?
fucking cool. Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you like his lyrics, you'll definitely like that.
yeah, I loved reading that. I got it on like a PDF when it came out, and
Hell yeah.
I was at my friend's house and I kind of was just like, all right, I'm gonna stop being social. I need to read this like right now. And then I was just in such a weird headspace for like the next couple of days because I couldn't stop thinking about it.
Yeah, dude, it's definitely fucking weird, but it's really cool. So you guys, it took you what you said 2 or 3 years to write the songs for North Pinion, right?
North Pinion, that was like a year.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was
pretty
like
quick.
a year.
For
And then
Forever in May, it was a
Forever
little
May
bit
took a
longer.
while,
Yeah.
Okay, and so how would you say the writing process differed between North Pinion and Forever in May?
It was a lot fucking harder.
Yeah, well, okay, well, North Pinion, I kind of just like, yeah, I just kind of came up with a bunch of stuff on guitar, mostly like full songs. I like to just sit with an acoustic guitar and just kind of do stuff until it feels good for like hours, and then I'll compile stuff, and then I used to show, I used to just go and show them, and then we'd work it out, like okay, and then this happens, and then this happens, like, I really like linear songwriting, just like feels the best happening next instead of like, I don't know. Anyways.
Yeah, with North Pinion, I was pretty much playing exclusively bass
Yeah.
at that time too. So a lot of the parts that I wrote or contributed were written like from the bass player perspective, which kind of like I guess changed a lot for Forever in May because I started writing on like almost exclusively guitar
Yeah.
for that album. But for North Pinion, I remember I was really really into like Russian Circles and like Cult of Luna at that time, and like Neurosis and Isis. So I was really into that kind of like power dynamic of being the bass player in like this heavy post-metal whatever band. And so
Yeah.
I really tried to like kind of stake my claim in that regard.
We
But,
were a lot more like metal kids, I'd say.
yeah.
But yeah, North Pinion was a lot more traditional, like band in a practice room kind of jamming songwriting.
Mm-hmm.
And then Forever in May was more just like, okay, what if we just did this weird idea and let's try to like I don't know,
Yeah. Which I guess like
get as close as we can.
like makes sense listening to Forever in May because like of the like you said earlier, the genre stylization kind of jumping around a lot.
Yeah, we just wanted to do whatever genre or a big thing was like we didn't want a big thing with North Pinion was we wanted to be able to like play it live the best we could, and for Forever in May we said like let's figure it out after the fact and just see how we can just make good songs.
It's interesting with Forever in May too because we recorded I think like a good 80% of the tracks on the album like as a live band, like as a 3-piece performing band with me on bass and Lynn on guitar and Ethan on drums. So it ended up kind of being like North Pinion in a way where we had to make sure that we could actually play these songs.
Yeah, kind of accidentally.
Yeah, like accidentally like together as a unit. In order to even record them and have them sound, cohesive.
Yeah, and I mean that's when Anna joined too. So they had a lot more input. Well, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, I think the new stuff that we've been working on too has been much more approached in the way where it's like, okay, anything goes. We don't necessarily to play it live, which I think is, I don't know, it's a really nice creative way of approaching stuff.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think the big reason for that is like all the self-recording and like demoing that we're doing. We're able to kind of, do whatever we want in that regard. And, that came from a big influence of, musicians like Tom Waslick or like Kyle Bates from Drowse. And, all those guys being big influences on us. So we kind of just bit the bullet and started doing like home recording and demoing and stuff, and it's very rewarding so far.
Yeah, I also think there's like a benefit in kind of having a different version of live versus recorded tracks. Like when I've seen Drowse, the live versions of songs don't sound exactly like the album versions, but I think that's great because it's like having two versions of a song you really like.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. I had David Filstra from Folian on the podcast recently, and we were talking about this, how when I was younger, I was very much like, when I see a band play, I want it to sound exactly how it fucking sounds on recording. And now that I've gotten old, I'm like, oh, fuck that, because I feel like they're two different experiences when you're listening to music on recording versus seeing a band perform it live. And so like Tom, for example, like I've seen him play, and his stuff, obviously he's staying true to the material that he's written, but he's there. I don't necessarily know if there's improvisation to what he's doing, but there's definitely some different things that he's doing, and it makes it sound fucking awesome as hell.
Yeah, he plays like a different set almost every night sometimes, I think.
Yeah, he's a freak. I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but like he just like blows my mind with the shit that he does. I don't know how the fuck he does it, but yeah, he's a freak of nature.
It was really surreal. First to see that he bought Forever in May.
Oh gosh.
And then second to see that he was like into it and was like talking about it on like his Instagram or whatever. Because I remember so clearly like when both of those things happened, because like that album was recorded on me listening to so much Planning for Burial, like nonstop.
Yeah, no, that was a little bit of a freak out.
I remember like when Tom bought it, we like saw the receipt or whatever. You're like, oh, he's like probably not gonna like it. Like,
yeah, I was like, oh no, he's gonna hate it. Like, he has such good taste. Oh no, like,
yeah, that was funny.
Straight up. So Tom has introduced me to so much cool music over the last couple of years. I will like legitimately seek out his albums of the year because there's always bands that I'm like, yeah, this is fucking awesome. And so yeah, that's how I found you guys, because he posted his like favorite albums of the year. I was like, all right, I have to check this out. But yeah,
thanks, Tom.
He's one of the few sources that I really trust to like give me good recommendations for like indie pop guitar type music.
So yeah, shout out to Tom Wasluck for having good taste in music.
Shout out to Tom.
Yeah, thank you, Tom.
So one of the things I wanted to talk to you guys about with Forever in May, I fucking love this. And as I was putting shit together, I was like, how would I describe this listening to their album? And what came to mind is, this is going to sound corny, but like wading in a wave pool, or like swimming in a wave pool. Because I feel like the album has these moments where it's like, all right, here comes the wave. It's going to fucking crush me. And then it just kind of like settles in a little bit and gets a little bit more subdued. And then I'm getting pummeled all over again.
Cool. I like that.
And I love that your album does that. Is that something that you guys thought about as you were preparing these songs for the album? Or was that something that just kind of happened as you were writing these songs?
Well, I mean, yeah, sort of. I'd say like half and half, because we like both those sides. I mean, pretty much everything that I write tends to be really soft and melodic, and then I bring it to these guys, and then they twist it, make it heavy as fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we like those dynamics a lot. I think dynamics is like one of the most powerful parts of music. But so yeah, we knew that was going to be a thing anyways, but the pacing of the album, yeah, we like wrote out a bunch of different ways, like
track
order. Yeah, the track order. Yeah, we wrote a bunch of track orders out just because we knew it was going to be weird bouncing between all of them, so we just wanted it to flow nice and I guess that wave pool going.
Yeah, that's such a fucking cool like analogy.
I know, I really like
that. I'll never get tired of hearing how different people like contextualize our music and like, you know, like visualize it, because that's like something I can't really do to it.
Yeah, I think you guys did such a great job with structuring out Forever in May, because like I said, I feel like the sequencing of it is just so, I think it's so perfect, because like you have these moments that are like, I don't know if soothing is the right word, but melodic, right? And then you've got songs like fucking Three Javelins that are just crushing, man, you know? Yeah. And I love that.
Originally, Three Javelins was also supposed to be half as long. Like, I think it's like around like a minute and 50-something seconds. It was supposed to just be like 1 minute or like 50 seconds or 1 minute of just like that, you know, like what it ended up being. But I think when we recorded it, we just accidentally like played it for too long. Yeah.
I will say also in terms of track ordering, there was some discussion on whether or not we were going to include like the drone track initially.
Oh yeah.
Which I'm
whether
really
we were
glad
going to keep it at
that
all.
we left on.
Yeah. Alone Year was a weird one because it's the longest one and it requires the most patience. And I'm still kind of skeptical of putting that like directly in the middle.
Okay, you see, I was like that too until I met Kyle from Drowse for the first time, and I was like talking to him about that, and he was like, no, actually, I think that would be really cool if you put it in the middle, because like if you had like a double record or something, it could be like, you know, it cleanly like halves the album into these like two, you know, that's distinct portions. And now I see that song on the album as like a little roadblock or like checkpoint.
Yeah, no, I love that song. So yeah, good choice. And I think like I said, I think with the way the album's structured, I feel like it's a really great, I don't want to say a palate cleanser, but it just, I think it's at a very good point in the record.
Yeah, I agree now. There was a lot of skepticism early on, but now I feel that.
Actually, one of my favorite things to listen to on that track, because I do sometimes listen back to it, are Max's vocals on that. He sounds like a bitch.
Oh yeah.
Which track is that?
Okay, for on Alone Year, and he's on
Three Javelins a little bit.
He's on Three Javelins too. Yeah, our buds from Two Brothers, they're a band from Ventura, and they've played a ton of shows with us. But yeah, Max is the singer for Two Brothers, and like I always thought he had some of the coolest harsh vocals, so we were like, we need you on there.
Yeah, I recorded all the vocals with him because he was working at like a recording studio / like performance space area, and he was giving me the big bro discount on getting into, because like that was the last thing that we needed to record was vocals, and so I just went in. I think I sent him those 2 songs before we started recording, and I was like, just do whatever you want on these, like just go for it, just, you know, flex your chops. And so yeah, his vocals show up in the middle of Alone Year, I think, and
like 6 minutes. Yeah,
and we're kind of doubling each other throughout Three Javelins, and he is the more kind of like, I guess, traditional, like hardcore-y, like, well, I guess I want to say just like well executed, like like good technique, as opposed to my just, you know, Jacob Bannon howling.
Do you guys have a favorite track from the album?
Mine is, actually, like any other day I would probably say Wind Chimes, because that to me is like, I feel like the strongest in terms of like our songwriting, but at the same time I feel like one of the most different from, you know, what we're actually like doing right now and like what we associate with our sound. And I think it's because it was one of the earliest songs written for, like, more or less like one of the earliest songs written for that album. But right now I've been vibing with Pinion Burnt a lot, the opening track, which in contrast was, I think, the last song we wrote was like the most recent up until recording song for that record. So I'm gonna go with Pinion Burnt.
Yeah, Wind Chimes is my baby also. I don't know, it's just fun. It's so fun to play live.
It's really fun to play live.
I think the last one, Soft Transition, is just I'm the most proud of it, like songwriting wise. So I'm gonna say that one.
Oh man, you like stole mine. That was also, I think, what I was gonna say.
Nice.
So I'm gonna say I fucking love Lyra. I love that song.
Nice.
It's my favorite favorite song on the album. It's so good.
Yeah, that song seemed to be kind of like a favorite with a lot of people, which is nice because I like that song. I like playing it. I originally had different plans for the ending part for the acoustic guitar passage that kind of closes that song, and I kind of wanted to add more onto it, but then I really enjoyed after we recorded it just having it kind of sit there to kind of like send the song off, and then it goes right into I think Soft Vanishing, which is like the acoustic instrumental song. Yeah, no, Lyra's a good one.
So I want to ask you about the lyrics because I really enjoy the lyrics, and sometimes I'm reading them like, what the fuck is this about?
All right. Yeah, this is. So yeah, I also have this question for you because I don't really know either.
So if you had to describe the themes of the album and the lyrics for the album, how would you describe them?
I think when I start to write lyrics, I take a lot of influence from like aesthetics and like literary aesthetics and that type of thing, and then I kind of try to set. This is gonna be hard. This is gonna be hard to like talk about. Like I'm good at like writing this out, like talking like in press packages or whatever. But now I'm kind of just like And in terms of like taking literary aesthetics, I like to kind of set boundaries for myself in regards to how I write lyrics and like how I space them or assign them to each song. But in terms of meaning, a lot of it is pretty abstract. Like I don't really necessarily know what I write about. Sometimes there's not really a central concept or theme running throughout the album, aside from, just one of like change and, desire to change and that kind of thing. And of course it's very different from song to song, but a lot of those lyrics I also wrote like with a lot of the music like 4 or 5 years ago. So when it gets to that kind of like level of abstraction, it's a little bit difficult for me to go back to it and be like, oh yeah, like I know exactly what I was talking about here because so much of what I write is just like off the top of my head, and I'll like put it down in like my notes app or like in a notebook or whatever, and then over years and years and years I'll whittle it down until it's finally like something that I'm actually proud of. I don't actually have the lyrics in front of me right now. If I did, I'd probably be able to do it a little more justice. But like when performing the songs, I always don't remember any of the lyrics until we start playing the song, and then it just all comes back to me.
Back in.
Yeah, that's and then funny. As soon as we finish, I'd like
they're gone.
Yeah, I couldn't tell anybody like anything about it.
That's funny.
But yeah, a lot of it I really really like writing from a place of like passion and like momentary inspiration. So I didn't really go into most of the concepts or the ideas that I'm writing about with like an idea of making this very cohesive and conceptual piece by the end of it. I guess my only goal that I set for myself is I like being able to like read them and enjoy them outside of the context of the music. And that's some of my favorite things about reading the lyrics of other artists. I really enjoy when it's, they can stand on their own. Like, not just with, whatever's going on. Like you can put them in a book and read them and still get enjoyment out of them. And I know like a lot of artists have actually done that. And I, kind of aspire to be on that level.
That's awesome. Yeah, one of the first singers that comes to mind is like Jacob Bannon. His lyrics. Sometimes I read his lyrics and I'm like, what? Like, how the fuck does someone think of writing these lyrics? Like,
yeah.
And they always seem to work so well with their music.
Yeah, Jacob Bannon's actually a huge influence in that regard because I love the concept of what's written down is not actually what he's singing. Which is a thing in like early Converge, especially on Jane Doe, and like just their early like super gnarly chaotic stuff. But that reminds me, Jacob Bannon writes in a way that's very visual and expressive, but without feeling constrained or like literal. Not like, oh, I'm telling you about this story, but I'm providing all these images and concepts that make you kind of like, piece together a frame of mind just from reading it. And that's kind of what I go for too.
That kind of reminds me, I don't know if this is like a direct inspiration or anything, but Ogre from Skinny Puppy Has the same
Oh, yeah,
very,
he does
like,
that too.
stream of consciousness.
Like stream of consciousness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
He's out there though.
Yeah.
He's
I'm
out there.
I love when singers can do that. And I feel like it's so fucking tough to do that.
It is hard. I do sit down with it for a really long time, and then it gets to the point where I'm kind of like, I'm very protective over it, because I've been like dealing, like each song kind of becomes its own little like isolated emotional narrative or like emotional concept, and I get very invested in that, like whenever we're talking about the song or like performing the song or whatever. When it gets to the point where I can't really approach it critically anymore after a certain point, and I just kind of have to be like, all right, I'm done messing with this, I'm done changing stuff around, I'm finished with it. And so it's never at a point where I'm 100% comfortable with how it ends up being. I kind of just have to like cut and run at a certain point, but then whenever I do that, I'm always satisfied, like looking back at it.
Yeah, I let you do whatever. Like, I'll ask to see some lyrics, just because I'm curious every now and then, yeah, sometimes you're like, oh, they're not finished, and like kind of talk them down, but I'm just like, whatever, do you? Because it always, the finished project's always like so beautiful to me. So
I definitely
put full trust in you.
Yeah, no, I definitely have like, it's really hard to describe like I said earlier, like emotional narratives or anything visually using like pictures, but I kind of like start thinking in that frame of mind when we're writing a song, like, oh, I want to try to convey these sorts of moods or anything through it. But at the end of the day, what lyrics I actually write down just kind of come to me. Like I said earlier, it's a very like heat of the moment type of thing.
That's super interesting.
I think that also kind of applies to, I don't know, some of the Lanayah like songwriting and also like kind of tone development we've done in the past.
Yeah, I would
like,
say that it's very just like,
yeah, setting down like
whatever we
some
feel.
moods and aesthetics, I guess, before we go into it.
So I want to go back to getting weird with it. Is like when you've been writing stuff, what's something that's come up when you're putting together music where you're like, yeah, let's get weird here, or like what's something that you've done that would have been atypical of maybe what you would have done when you guys first were coming together as a band?
Okay, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we're doing for like the new record, where okay, so I have a tenor guitar, which is one of those tiny 4-string like folk instruments, and we put a contact mic on it and ran it through a bunch of weird pedals, and it doesn't see anything.
Yeah, and then just ran it direct into an audio interface, like didn't run it into an amplifier or anything.
Yeah,
and we have been unable to recreate that same sound we got right there. So it exists in that like that audio file on my laptop right now, and it will never be reproduced.
So yeah, I don't know. We just do a lot of stuff like that where we're like, oh, what if we just took this weird instrument and I don't know, do whatever to it.
Yeah, a lot of what Lynn does comes from like exploring different types of like acoustic stringed instruments, or like just like the guitar in general in kind of weird melodic ways. And then I kind of tend to approach things from a really like wildly like texture based approach, if that makes sense. Like I really enjoy working with like samplers and synthesizers, because I get to kind of like get super into like the nitty gritty with how I'm conveying a sound, or like how I'm synthesizing a waveform or that kind of thing. Like with the new stuff we've been writing, I've been doing most of like my creative input or my writing from the perspective of a sampler, or like from editing sounds like on a laptop or that kind of thing. And that's widely different from anything we did on Forever in May or in North Pinion, where it was exclusively me playing bass or playing guitar.
That's fucking cool. Yeah. When I was looking up your Bandcamp, I saw, synthesizer samplers, and I have no clue if I'm pronouncing this correctly. Is it called Kima?
Oh,
Yeah.
Kima, yeah.
Yeah. What the fuck is a Kima?
Okay.
And I saw it, and I tried Googling it, and I couldn't really find anything.
So I'm at University of Oregon, and I do like some music and like sound design classes here, and they have this very expensive professional software that I've been able to use through the music department there, which is it's a very bizarre digital software. It comes with its own external processor because it has a lot of functions on it. But basically, it's just sound manipulation. It has a lot of good granular effects on it, so I used it and I plugged in a bunch of like samples and did some granular synthesis with that, and just created some kind of interesting, very textural sounds that I think, just kind of like got sprinkled throughout some of the album.
Yeah, I think the big Kima part is the end of Pine Sun Orange. The kind of like drony outro. There's this really cool like granular, like weird ghostly sound that kind of hangs over like when the drums are playing, and that's Anna doing something with Kima. Yeah, I have no idea how it works. It's like it's completely beyond my understanding.
No, it's interesting. It's kind of like the way that the software works. In my experience, it's very modular. Like you're just kind of dragging things around and connecting them in new like pathways and flows, just in a digital way instead of like using patch cables. Speaking of modular, that's cool. That's something else that we're doing a lot more of on the new stuff.
Yeah, a lot of modular.
So shit basically is pretty much anything game for you guys as far as like sounds and shit that you're trying to do with as far as experimentation goes.
Yeah, we're kind of addicted to finding new stuff, new sounds we haven't heard before, so we have to get weirder.
Yeah, I guess we can talk about now the way that we're planning on at least releasing, but also like how we're writing the new stuff is taking influence from this thing that Boris used to do on their early albums, where they would make an album that's just one long song, like Feedbacker or Flood, and it's like separated into like Feedbacker 1, Feedbacker 2, etc., etc. So before we even started writing this new album, we intended to write it as just one really long piece of music. And that's kind of like what we're doing right now.
So to keep it interesting, we have to pull from like really crazy sources.
Yeah, some of the stuff that you've been working on sampling on the 404 has just been incredibly gnarly, and it has that kind of like unplaceable quality. Like it's a cool sounding thing, but you couldn't guess the source of it necessarily.
Oh yeah, the SB404SX by Roland completely changed my life. Ethan, who used to play drums for us, bought it, and then I traded him a bass amp for it, and now it's become like the most inspirational tool I've ever used. And I love combining sounds, like some found sounds like field recordings and that type of thing with like synthesized sounds to create these really weird like textures, and like that's definitely gonna show up a lot on the new stuff. So I'm excited to kind of express myself in that way.
Fuck yeah. So you guys have already been working on your next album, I'm assuming, because you keep mentioning working on new material.
Yeah, we're about, I'd say with actual like material, we're about like halfway done, but like as overall we're probably not even like 20-30% done.
No,
like in terms of the the skeleton of, you know, the whole song, I guess, the whole album.
Halfway.
We're about halfway.
One of the kind of interesting things that's arisen through doing this like continuous song process is that like now all of my notes about the writing and stuff have like subsection 1, subsection 2, and then like subsection as we figure out all the transitions to make it really flow, so you don't even have to put in like ideally like no transitions between, I don't know, songs. I think we'll eventually break it up into kind of like sections or tracks. But ideally,
I kind of like already started doing that.
Yeah, you like wouldn't even have to do that. You could be able to listen to it as an entire thing, which just means that the transitions have to be incredibly strong.
Oh yeah. That's like the hardest part right now is like nailing going from one part to another, because we can't just be like, okay, that's the end of the song. Like then this part starts off the next song. It's like, no, we need to throw this part in there so that this part makes sense going into this part, and it's
been different. It's been fun.
It's fun. It's very fun. Yeah.
I don't know if you guys are into Bell Witch, but it was like 2 or 3 years ago.
Oh my God.
That was,
dude, it's fucking Mirror Reaper.
Mirror Reaper was
fucking
actually,
mind blowing, right?
Yeah, no. Will sent me that when I was in class one day, and was just like, hey, haha, what if we did something like this as like a joke? And then we were like, okay, but we could.
Fuck yeah.
Why not?
Which, right, like that album is incredible.
It is. That's like a fuck. Oh my God. I don't know if you've read the lyrics to that one too, but like since it's this really long album, it's just this massive page that you just have to keep
yeah, dude, it's intense.
And it's
because I think they wrote that. Was it their drummer that died,
their drummer
or I can't remember who? Yeah, right. And
really
so
sad.
that album is fucking insane.
I've already gotten a really pretty big head start on like the preliminary like lyric writing process for the new thing that we're doing, and it's so much. Like, with all due respect to Forever in May, it's so much more fun than, like, with Forever in May, where everything was, like... I mean, like, we approached Forever in May as kind of, like, a collection of songs. Like, it's a cohesive album, but, like you said, you tell people to kind of just put a random song on.
Yeah.
Like, I've always enjoyed it as, like, separate little, like, Lanayah chunks. And lyrically, it works. It works as that. Like, there's some continuity, but whatever continuity shows up, it's because I was writing some parts so close together lyrically, but I like it being able to be kind of like approached on a song by song basis, and this is like the complete opposite.
I can't even imagine how difficult that would be. I play guitar, so like I'll write shit at home, and sometimes I struggle with like getting from point A to point B in a song that I'm writing, and then having to like transition into something else that would be one cohesive fucking thing.
Yeah,
I feel like would have to be so fucking challenging.
It's tough.
It's really fun. I think transitions, like good transitions, are my favorite parts of music. It's like I don't even care what happens next. If it just like goes into something really well next, I'm just like, hell yeah. I love that.
I think people don't realize how tough that shit could be sometimes, and how like making it sound good, right? I feel like it could be very fucking challenging.
Before we started writing, also we kind of got like sat down with a piece of paper and
just spitballed like.
Yeah, we were just like, okay, this is part one. This part, like, part one sounds like this. Part two is going to sound like this. And, like, we're going to have this instrument in this part. And now, at this point, we've kind of completely just given the fuck up.
The skeleton is pretty much there. So
yeah, the song has a mind of its own now. It's kind of enslaved us.
So, I got to ask this. Forever in May, how did you guys come up with the name of that album?
Okay, so... For the longest time, we just called it Lanayah 2, like in working. And then we were kind of like, oh shit, we need a name for this thing for real at the end. And Forever in May was something I just had in my notes app on my phone. Just that and nothing else. And I guess to get real again, that's May 11th of 2018 is when I started my transition. And it was not only just a big turning point for myself in my life, but just like in my headspace, because I was so repressed before. And so Forever May to me personally just means like I'm going to forever live in that moment forward, like that turning point. And it just ended up working because I think all of us kind of were going through a lot of changes and positive changes. So yeah, the album, I mean, it's dark and heavy, but it has a light undertone, I think. It's very warm, and a lot of people have said that it's really summery feeling, and I like that because that's kind of what the name means, is that, like, I don't know, giving up on repression and just moving forward.
Oh, dude, that is seriously amazing. Like, so here's my corny ass being like, yeah, I love for the name Forever in May because my birthday's in May. And like, you have this amazing story. I mean, that's incredible.
I mean, to be fair, I've also like I've signed off on things and like words and phrases, like even like the band name Lanayah or the album name Forever in May, because I just like how they look written out.
Yeah, I think
like,
that just looked nice too.
That's my goal. That's like my primary directive, so to speak. It's just like I signed off on Lanayah because I was like, I want to see this on shirts. Like I want to see this big font, like KMFDM font, just like top of like a black shirt, some kids wearing at like a Neurosis show or something. Like,
I think in terms of like talking about how things look too, I'm really, really happy with how the album art looks for Forever in May too. I think that just impacts so much.
Hell yeah.
Shout out to Arius.
The Marooned on Instagram.
Yeah.
Amazing artist.
The period Marooned.
So Lynn,
yeah,
this project and the things that you guys have done then has, I'm assuming based on what you've been saying, that this has been a very positive experience for you in terms of transitioning and who you are and where you're at this point in your life?
Yeah, I would say that. I mean, Anna and Will, they're like some of the best, nicest, creative people, and so welcoming. And yeah, I would never be able to make music like this without them. And I mean, like early stages of Lanayah was pretty dark, I think, for a lot of us, and I think we just kind of got sick of it, and we're like, fuck, we can't live like this.
I mean,
but yeah,
I'll always, I think, be most, like, I guess, create, in my opinion, like the most compelling stuff when I'm in kind of like a dark headspace. So I'm never like really too far away from it whenever we're like writing or recording or performing or anything like that, just because I've gotten used to kind of like treating it as a friend almost. But in like, yeah, in the North Pinion stages, that it was way more unstable.
it was a lot. Yeah. It was a lot more chaotic.
And yeah, but now I can look back on like Forever in May and, just be proud of it. Just be happy that it exists and, be excited to move on to the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's fucking dope as hell. Hell fucking yeah, guys. That's fucking awesome as hell. So I gotta ask this. I was lurking your Instagram and I'm assuming it's your guitar, Will, but I don't know for sure. That like aqua green.
Oh
Fender.
yeah, that's mine.
So dude, that headstock is dope as fuck. So is that headstock and fretboard metal?
Yeah, it's aluminum. The entire neck is aluminum, actually.
Did you do that yourself?
No. God, no.
No, there's companies that do that. Yeah.
It was this one guy who has a company called Robot Graves Industries who was doing aluminum guitar and bass necks, and I've always been super interested in like guitars made from alternative materials, especially like metals like aluminum. Like growing up and being a huge like Big Black and like Shellac fan, and then getting into bands like the OCs or Cult of Luna, who all use a lot of like prominent usage of like aluminum neck guitars. I was always so interested.
Buzzo uses one too, right?
Huh? Oh yeah, Buzzo's. I think Buzzo's entire guitar is aluminum.
Yeah.
But I was like, that was always just something that was completely unobtainable for me, because it's so expensive. Getting a guitar that's prime, like just all aluminum, and at that point, I assumed like that was just what you had to do. Like you couldn't just get an aluminum neck or anything. You had to get like the entire deal. And then I found this guy, Robot Graves Industries, who was making these guitars. And he wasn't super big or prominent yet, in terms of like making custom like guitar necks and that kind of thing. So I ordered one from him, and it was cheaper than I thought it would be. And as soon as I put it on, I was like, okay, I am.
The picture I took of you when you like assembled it, you're just smiling so huge.
Yeah,
you're like, this is my fucking baby.
It was super easy. I would just took the old neck out, put the new one in, and like I don't think I can go back to playing like a guitar with a wooden neck. Like I know that sounds.
I don't think you
like,
should, honestly. That sounds so good.
Oh my god, I got so much. Actually, I didn't get that much hate, but like.
You got some, yeah.
I got this one guy because I was super excited when I put it on, and I like posted it in all these like subreddits and all these like guitar forums and stuff. And there's this one guy who's just like, "Why would you do that?"
Yeah,
like,
you had some guitar dads after you.
Yeah, I got so pissed. I got so mad.
So I have to say, like, I love the shapes of like Jazz Masters and
yes.
Jaguars and even Telecasters, but for the longest time I have hated Fender headstocks. I don't know why. I'm just like, the Fender headstocks look whack as shit.
Yeah, they're pretty corny.
Yeah. Did you know that if you took two of the headstocks and you flipped one over and you put the other one underneath it, then it makes a perfect rectangle? Because I didn't know that.
I did not know that. No.
I still hate them, but I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's why they look like that.
Yeah, so when I saw that, I was like, oh, fuck yes, because I think that headstock looks so much goddamn better than like a stock Fender headstock.
Oh yeah, I'm a fan. I'm a big fan for sure.
Yeah.
It's also just like how it affects the sound is so interesting, because that guitar that I put the neck on was a Jazz Master, and it was already really bright and kind of like chimey sounding in terms of like how I played it and how I EQ'd it. And I'm primarily running it through a a 1980s solid state amp called the JC120, or at least I was for like the past, like I want to say like 7 or 8 months, which is very clean. So I associated that guitar a lot with just really bright, like chimey sounds, and then putting the neck on it, it only like made that.
It bites.
Yeah, it's like being attacked, like something with claws, like with sharp claws. Like it's great.
Yeah,
I love it. It just makes me like want to exclusively write like noise rock riffs, like more than anything else. I just want to like just go nuts.
That's fucking dope, man. Yeah, when I saw that, I was like, yo, that looks fucking sweet as hell.
Yeah,
hell yeah.
I'm pretty proud of it.
So, what have you guys been listening to lately?
I mean, right now, I always liked.
I'm gonna like think about this for a second.
I always liked Skinny Puppy, but I fully like dove in now, and now I'm a huge Skinny Puppy nerd.
I feel like we're all going through a Skinny Puppy phase. Like,
yeah. I don't know. I'm revisiting a lot of like Animal Collective again. I do that like every year when it gets nice out again.
Nice out again, like, you know, we're living in California.
Yeah.
The season's here, so it's like slightly cloudy versus extremely sunny.
Yeah, but when spring comes around, like, I don't know, Animal Collective is just, I don't know, it makes me happy.
I've kind of been back on my microphones shit, just like,
oh hell yeah,
fuck yes.
Yeah, I've been out in the forest listening to the Glow Part 2, just as Phil intended.
The microphones are great.
Yeah. I mean, I can't think of a time in like the past decade or so where I haven't been obsessed with Skinny Puppy, so I'm still listening to them a lot. But like Anna said, actually I've been getting back into a lot of Phil Elverum's catalog, like a lot of the newer Mount Eerie stuff that I missed, and you know, I always find my way back to the microphones. I always go back to the Glow Part 2, or you know, the Mount Eerie, like the album. And other than that,
did you like the Mount Eerie album that came out last year? I'm trying to remember.
Lost Wisdom.
Lost Wisdom. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Did you like that album?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like everything that guy does.
Yeah, I thought it was really
Honestly.
good too.
Yeah, he's so consistent, like in my mind. Like I can just put on any album that he kind of has worked on, you know, throughout his catalog, and can just enjoy it.
I love too, like, I love how he sings. It's like, I don't want to say it's not spoken word, but sometimes like it almost makes me feel like he's just like speaking when he's singing, and I fucking love it.
Oh yeah, he really is just like, here's my heart, look at it.
Yeah, yeah. And like A Crow Looked at Me is just fucking
That's so
brutal
hard
to listen to.
Yeah, I listened to that like I think twice.
It's, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, it's so brutal.
Yeah, actually, I have Anna to thank for, you know, getting into a lot of like the microphones, and then recently I got really into Grouper,
Yes.
which Anna had been telling me to get into for I think like years, and then and now I feel like I'm like a fucking idiot, because I could have used this for so many nights where like I had trouble falling asleep. I could have just put this on.
Grouper is so good.
Grouper is fucking amazing. So Ruins is one of those albums that is, her music in general, it can be very tough to listen to at times because her music is super fucking depressing. And I recently revisited Dragging a Dead Deer Up a Hill.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I have been listening to that nonstop for probably the last like month and a half. It's such a fucking good album.
Yeah, it's
her music's
great.
incredible. So I don't know who it was, which one of you messaged me about Shoo Shoo, but I figured I'd let you know. I listened to A Promises today, and it was so
about
fucking
okay,
good.
that's one of my
devastating
favorite albums of all
albums.
time. Shoo Shoo is
Also,
okay,
that was me. I take credit for
Oh,
that.
yeah.
I'm so happy. Shoo Shoo was like,
yeah, Shoo Shoo's one of my
oh no, I think we're gonna say the same thing, which is just that Shoo Shoo is one of my favorite bands ever.
Yeah.
Period.
yeah, it's one of my biggest influences.
That was another band that I owe to Anna, actually. Anna got me into like so much of the music that like has just still been rewarding to me.
I think that's like
over the years.
like a two-way interaction, like a two-way street. Because
Aw.
I've definitely listened to a lot more like heavy music, I think, than I would have otherwise. Because of Lynn and Will. Yeah, no, Shoo Shoo though that was probably like my first gateway into like any experimental or heavy music. So they have a special place.
Yeah,
in my
he's
heart.
like, I feel like his music is like the definition of weirdo music, but like I had such a negative bias against Shoo Shoo because oh my God. So I was probably like 18 or 19 years old. So this was like close to 15 years ago. A buddy of mine that I would go to shows with all the time, one of our other friends had a Shoo Shoo record, and we were hanging out at his house, and my buddy picked up the Shoo Shoo album and was just like, yeah, this is weirdo shit music. Don't bother listening to it. And so that just kind of like stuck with me. Like, and then I listened to Shoo Shoo one time and was just like, yeah, I don't think I'm going to like this. So I like would just put off listening to Shoo Shoo solely because of that. And I've had people over the years say like, yeah, you need to check out Shoo Shoo. You're going to like it. And so yeah, I posted that shit on Instagram yesterday, and several people were like, go listen to Shoo Shoo, go listen to Dr. Troll. And then someone mentioned A Promise, and I started reading some of the lyrics about that song and like what that album is about. And just like, holy fuck,
it's dark.
It is so dark.
Yeah.
No, I felt so like happy that I saw you answer my Dr. Troll suggestion, and then immediately after I saw another person suggest the same song.
Yeah, dude.
And I was like, oh,
that song's wild as fuck.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a brutal one.
So yeah, I know you released Forever in May last year, but do you guys have any other plans? Obviously, you're working on some new material, but anything else that you guys have coming up?
We still have that like single kind of thing.
Well, we kind of missed the deadline.
Yeah,
not really.
Yeah, we were originally gonna record like a really quick, like 3.5 to 4 minute song for a benefit compilation, but we didn't end up. We're not like we wrote it, but we were not able to have it recorded and ready to go in time for the deadline. So I think we're still gonna contribute to the benefit comp, but just with a
Forever in May track.
Yeah, Forever in May track. So one day that song will probably see the light of day.
We don't know when. Yeah.
Writing it was kind of like a really quick speed bump, just along the way of writing more and more and more of the thing that we're working on now. And speaking of the thing that we're working on now. We were, I think, planning. We started some like preliminary discussion on doing a summer tour.
Yeah,
I think
it's still in like really early stages. We'll figure that out.
Oh, please come to New York so I can see you guys play.
I don't know about the East Coast,
I would love
to. I would, yeah.
Yeah, our touring experience thus far has been constricted to like what times our schedules all line up, and it is almost always during school breaks. And then it's like we have a week to go, up the coast to Oregon and then come back down. And the last time we played in Oregon was the best Lanayah shows.
Yeah.
Like ever.
I think the one thing we still need to do is we haven't had a proper Seattle show yet. And I think doing it during summer will give us a little bit less of like a time constraint to like get all the way north and back. So
yeah, we've been touring in the winter, like dead of winter, snowy streets, like everything.
Oh yeah, we've had to
we're gonna
drive
try to
through some bad rain.
Yeah, are we going to talk about Tequila, Washington, or is that too painful of a memory to?
It was
so
what it was.
Now you have to talk about
it. So yeah, I guess our first tour.
Yeah, it was our first tour.
Yeah, it was our first one, and it was really short, and we were just kind of didn't know what we were doing. And I guess we had a Seattle show, or I don't know what happened.
It was in Seattle,
which is not.
I thought we were going up to, and then we made it to Tequila, which is just like a tiny.
It's
I don't know.
It's
there's
like
a lot of like.
It's outside Seattle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shout out to any of the Tequila listeners.
But yeah, there was a lot of like truck trailers. Like that's where they like stopped off. And we played at, I think it was called Lucky's Liquor.
Lucky's Liquor.
Yeah, it was like a biker bar, and there was like no one there. There was a ton of pinball machines. There was like a ton of strange art in the wall.
Oh, Max's friend Holly, and I think like someone else showed up.
Yeah, there was like two people.
So we had
the Tequila
crowd of
biker bar scene was not that into Lanayah.
Not receptive to Lanayah at all.
The sound guy liked us.
Oh yeah,
we stopped playing.
The bartender, she liked us too.
Yeah. We stopped playing, and he put on Wolves in the Throne Room through the PA. So like I know that he gets it.
Yeah, but I don't know. It was just a goofy show.
It was goofy, and I mean, I think the reason why we haven't played shows like that in a while is because we switched from like I think that tour was booked through some like agency or something, and now when we book, like I book with a few friends, so we're just hitting up like DIY venues. Which I think just helps bring out more people that are actually interested in heavier music and things like that.
It helps a lot too, because I feel way more in control of like our sound and everything. I get like really obsessed when we start performing like how everything sounds, and playing DIY shows in like basements and
kitchens
is honestly like great for me, because I can be like, okay, fuck yes, we can just turn up all of our amps like and just kind of go for it. So yeah, shout out to Oregon for being so cool the last time we rolled through.
Shout out to every DIY space that's staying afloat.
Yeah.
Fighting to survive.
Santa Barbara wasn't doing so well for a hot minute, and now we have a really, really cool new place that like just kind of started doing shows, and it's awesome. So
that's awesome. Yeah, DIY spaces, man, they are the fucking best.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So guys, thank you so fucking much for taking your time to have this goofy ass discussion with me, because you were all, I seriously had so much fun speaking to you three. Thank you so much. And yeah, Forever in May is fucking awesome. So I cannot wait to hear some of the new shit that you guys are working on.
All right, thanks so much. It was so fun to be on.
Straight up, I had such a great time speaking to those three. They were awesome as fuck. I let the three of them know this after we had finished up our conversation, but I almost got teary-eyed, man, when Lynn was talking about their situation and transitioning and how welcoming the music community where they're from is, and how Lanayah has been a very positive experience for them during this point in time, which I just think is so fucking awesome. I had no clue going into this interview that Lynn is transgendered, and I feel so thankful and so grateful that Lynn was willing to open up to me about that stuff and to share their perspective and to share that part of their life with me and then with you guys as well. So fucking awesome. Thank you so much, Lynn. That meant a lot to me, and I really appreciated it. Also, I'm very excited to hear their new material that they've been working on, because I think that's awesome as hell that they're trying to put together a body of work for their next album that's just going to be one long ass song. That's fucking cool as hell. So make sure you guys check out Lanayah if you have not. Cop some of their merch if you can. Make sure to follow the show. Subscribe if you can. Always appreciate it when you guys do that. And then, as always, get out there, create something cool. I will see you next time.